To my presentation about the development of ROVs and the exploration of RMS Titanic. This is my first presentation and I'm excited to be here with you today. I hope you will find it interesting and informative. Before we start our journey, I'd like to introduce myself. I am 9 years old and a third grade student at St. Martin's Lutheran School. I'm sure you are wondering what a 9-year-old knows about ROVs and Titanic. I've grown up with RVs my entire life, and my parents have worked in the RV industry for a long time. I've helped my dad work on RVs, and it has been a lot of fun. So I know a little something about this stuff. Titanic for me is interesting but tragic. There are so many lives lost. Using RVs, we can visit her today. I have 3 main topics that I will be speaking about today. First, I will discuss Titanic and her sinking. Second, I would like to give you an overview of XBOT and the technology behind it. Then, we will cover the planning of RV missions and how we can solve the mysteries of RMS Titanic and other maritime tragedies. This is a picture of Titanic before she set sail on her first and only voyage. Titanic captured the imagination of the world and was a symbol of luxury and future. RMS Titanic was the largest ship built at the time she was launched. Titanic's keel, the backbone of the huge ship, was laid in 1909. The technology behind Titanic was state-of-the-art and she was thought to be unsinkable. At least that's what they believed. The White Star Line was so confident that Titanic carried only 20 lifeboats, enough for only a third of the 3,300 women, children, and men. On April 10th, Titanic set sail on her first and only voyage. Close to midnight on April 14th, as we all know, she struck an iceberg. Within 3 hours, Titanic would be lying on the seafloor of the Atlantic. Only 710 were saved. When I read about Ida Strauss, it helped me to understand what courage and sacrifice are all about. This is an artist's impression of RMS Titanic as she left for her first and final voyage. After 100 years on the seafloor, this is how a Titanic appears today. Any accident that involves loss of life needs to be investigated to hopefully prevent similar tragedies. Shipwreck investigations, even under the best circumstances, are difficult, and until recently many could not be performed because of the condition of the wreck site or the depth of the wreck. The loss of Titanic was an important part of history, and many new maritime regulations were put in place as a result. It underscored the importance of being able to investigate future accidents. This artist's image represents the stern of Titanic. While sinking, the stern suffered massive structural damage, and it's believed that this was due in some parts to implosions. When the stern hit the sea floor, the vessel collapsed onto itself. Penetration into the interior Titanic stern would be extremely difficult. Beginning in the 1950s, both the U.S. and British governments started to develop ROV technology. Today, ROVs are commonly used for marine investigations to depths as deep as 6,000 meters. Here is a photo of me and my 2 older sisters, Reine and Emmy. They are both 13 years old, and no, they are not twins. This is a picture of my ROV team. In this photo, there are 2 RVs. As you can see, the larger one is too big to enter a wreck. Technology did not allow us to reduce the size of these vehicles until recently. We will learn more about the small RV later in this presentation. In the late 1990s, there were several attempts at reducing the size of RVs for close inspections on wrecks. While they were big improvements, they were not completely successful. But the most important feature is the ability to record visual information, which is often the only thing we can take away from the physical wreck and was used as evidence to understand the cause of a tragedy. The 2 RVs pictured here were developed by Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute and Vermeer. The premier French oceanographic institution. Wrecks are dangerous. The risk of losing equipment or your life if you are diving on them is always there. There is poor visibility, sharp edges, and lots of debris. I guess that's why they call it an adventure. The goal is to build an RV that is small and light, reliable, stable, and maneuverable, but most important, it must have good lights and cameras. Designing this RV, some important features were decided on. The electronics and batteries will be pressure tolerant, meaning it will withstand the pressure of being underwater. The umbilical will be fiber optic, and the umbilical will feed from the RV instead of the ship on the surface. As a result, the RV will be small, durable, and light, and will reduce the risk of entanglement from the wreck. This RV, Phoenix International's prototype RV, carried all of our proposed design concepts. It even used pressure-tolerant LED light-emitting diodes that did not use a lot of power. The RV was not very tough. There are a lot of problems, but that is what a prototype is all about. My dad had a mission before I was born to look for and inspect a submarine that sank in 1968. After it was found, the Israeli government wanted to get inside, but there was no way to do it. This is where the idea for a small disposable RV came from. It did not cost a lot of money, so if you lost it, it was no big deal. Great minds think alike. James Cameron wanted to do the same thing, and he asked my dad to show him the prototype RV. And voila, introducing XBot 2. This picture shows the main components of the RV. It was very, very simple, which was the general idea from the start. The key to XBot was to use pressure-tolerant electronics and batteries. You can get rid of the heavy 1 atmosphere pressure housings in the space that they can use. XBot used a plastic box to house the electronics and batteries and was filled with non-conductive oil to make up for the pressure. I am not a chemist, so I can't tell you very much about the batteries, other than they stored a lot of energy. A lot of testing needed to be done to get these right because a lithium-ion battery can burst into flames if you don't treat them right. The umbilical is how we get information to and from the RV. I have an example from the fiber spool that was used on XBot here. This fiber offered a lot of strength in a small size, and it's very tough to damage. It's also cheap, so you can throw it away after a dive. The XBot pays out its umbilical from the RV so that it does not try and drag the umbilical through a wreck. It is a lot like a wire-guided torpedo. This image is the umbilical payout tool. You do not know what you are going to run into, so you have to be prepared. XBot had several features to handle some of the difficult situations that it might find itself in. For example, it could make itself lighter and it could look directly above and below itself. This is a diagram of the camera and light turn to give XBot a lot of flexibility to see. To light up objects, XBot also had several different lights, but all of them were made from light-emitting diodes, or LEDs. For the bigger lights, you simply add more rows of LEDs. This diagram is of the weight drop mechanism so that XBot could adjust its weight if it was too heavy. Okay, we have our RV, but how do we get to the Titanic? On this expedition, XBot was installed in the Russian Mir submarines. On board the Russian research ship Keldysh for the trip to Titanic. The RVs will be operated by Jim Cameron from the inside of the submarine. There were 2 Mir submarines, and the second one was used as a camera platform to film the operation and provide lighting. As you can see from the picture, it was pretty crowded on the Mir. In case one of the XBot got into trouble, Mr. Cameron wanted a spare, just in case. As you can see, there's 3 RV garages where they are stored. Before any dive, the dive mission had to be planned, and the slide shows the things that were discussed and agreed to before each dive. The picture shows XBot and its mother, Mir, top of the officers' quarters before X-Bot dropped through the open sky light of the Marconi room. These are some of the entryways in Titanic's bow and the main part of the ship. This image is of the stern because it was so badly damaged. Penetration into the wreck was very difficult. Most of the attention was spent on exploring the bow. Mr. Cameron had some places he wanted to visit. We will see these rooms look like today in a short video that I will show you. On the far right corner is the Marconi room where they set up the first SOS, and on the bottom is the Strauss's bedroom. And as you can see, they were first class. On the other side is the Turkish bath where they went to change after they went to the gym. The easiest way to get around the wreck is by using the grand staircase. The top is open at the top of the wreck. These two images show what it looks like and which decks were clear for access. Looks a little different today. Now I'm going to show you a short video on some of the places X-Bot traveled to on Titanic.
I'm going to help out a little bit here. This is X-Bot being launched from one of the Russian beers. Sound effects. As you can see, X-Bot is dropping down into the previous image. You can see that obviously it's almost like an elevator shaft. The objective of this particular dive was to get to the Turkish bath, which was down on D deck and was about as inaccessible as you could really hope for. But it was really something that Jim Cameron wanted to visit. And right now we're looking straight down and you can see some fire. Now the only problem was that the door to the Turkish bath is closed. So what do? Well, the bulkhead had failed, and so ironically enough, the steel bulkhead's gone, but the door's still there. And the Turkish bath was really phenomenal. It was very opulent, and the tiles were still on the walls. And this is remarkable here. I don't know if you can really see it, but you'll see 4 legs sticking up. These are the changing stalls inside of the Turkish bath. And once again, the woodwork's still there, the tile's still there. We're going to see some more imagery here in a second of the colors of the tiles. I'd like to mention that the National Geographic issue that's out this month, the mosaics inside the magazine were created by this video, or by use of it, I should say. This is X-Bot. You just saw it by one of the boat davits, and it's you have 2 vehicles here entering the officers' quarters by the grand staircase. Now we're going to jump around a little bit. This is one of the first-class staterooms, and fireplace still in place. As I'm sure everybody has seen, in Jim Cameron's Titanic, the famous scene of Leonardo DiCaprio drawing a rose in front of the fireplace will be coming up here in a second. Look for the clock on the mantle. he based that whole scene on a black and white photograph. What you're seeing here are this is etched glass within Titanic looking out onto the promenade deck. It's just, once again, amazing that the glass is still intact. We have stacks of plates still in the racks. There's some areas within Titanic that are remarkably intact. Now this is the famous drawing scene. Like I said, you only see it for a brief second, but the golden clock is still there. There we go. Okay, during the sinking, there's a story that Captain Smith told Harold Bride that his job was done and that he could leave his station in Marconi room. Now, if you look closely, we're going to pan up here. That is a knife switch. At the inquest, Harold Bride survived the sinking, and when questioned about what he did at that point, he said that he switched off his equipment, and basically it was called a liar. They said, okay, you're knee-deep in ice-cold water, and you took the time to shut down your equipment. Well, that's the whole point of XBOT. 100 years into the future, we are now able to go back in time and prove that Harold Bride was telling the truth.
Sadly, the expedition did have one casualty. XBOT number 3, while exploring the Turkish bath, was lost. Now I'm going to show you a few pictures from the expedition. This is one of the boat deck davits. This is XBOT exploring the promenade deck. XBOT is exiting its garage on the front of the mirror. XBOT inspecting the officers' quarters on the boat deck. XBOT inspecting one of the wind glasses that were used to help launch the lifeboats. There were lessons learned from the expedition and XBOT improvements were identified. As a result, XBOT 3 was born. The new and improved XBOT. The one far down is the first XBOT. Then there's a second, then there's a third, and you can see the generation to generation, which I think is pretty cool. I would like to thank Ken Marshall for his kind permission to use his artwork in my presentation. While I was working on this presentation with my dad, he asked me what Titanic meant to me, and my personal thought was, for me, it is a drawer that once you open, it is something that stays with you forever. Thank you for your time and attention. I now invite you to come up and have a closer look at one of the XBOTs used on Titanic.
If you have any questions, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Why is it better for the umbilical to roll out the Xbox as opposed to rolling out of the ship?
Well, with traditional ROVs, the umbilical either comes from what's called a tender management system or from the surface. And when you're entering into a structure, you're pulling that umbilical behind you, and so you're running the risk of damaging your umbilical on sharp edges, getting it caught up, and for long excursions, which was the case in Titanic. Excuse me. That umbilical has weight, and you have to drag it. So by paying out the tether or the umbilical from XBOT, you didn't run into those problems. And as Reine said, this was a single mode fiber, and the idea was to minimize that size and weight. And hence, that's the reason why the ROV had batteries on board. Yes?
How long did it take for you to make this presentation?
How do we do that for a month? Part-time.
Oh,
Okay. Who else? Anybody? Yes?
What was your interest in the Turkish bath?
Well, it wasn't my interest, it was Jim Cameron's. And I think what he was trying to do was, he actually wanted to get to the swimming pool as well. The Titanic, once again, was, over the top. And I think he really wanted to find a space that really demonstrated, the opulence of the ship. And photos from the period, I mean, really, the Turkish bath looked incredible. Yes?
How do you consider that spot?
Good question. That's a matter of opinion, but getting into the Turkish bath was pretty much a one-way mission. It was a very small hall. You came down, and at the base of the grand staircase, you walked around, and you walked down a short flight of stairs, and then into the Turkish bath. And the condition of the wreck, there was a little tiny hole there. And Jim owned these vehicles, so it was his decision to basically go for it. He looked at that hole, and at first he said, well, I don't think we're going to fit. And then he said, what the heck? And so he blasted through this thing. And I doubt he had any illusions about the vehicle coming back. So to answer your question, I think it was a combination of eventually the fiber got damaged, and either that or the batteries ran out. We'll never know. Unfortunately, we can't do a forensic study on the ROV because of what it's in. That's it. And if anybody wants to come up and see XBot, this is one of the vehicles you saw in the video. One of the 3 survivors, I should say. And thank you.
Yes, my sister.
Okay, you can turn this off now. Okay.